What's up, YouTube? It's Matt with the Matt Out Here YouTube channel. Today we're out here at the Bauer Unit, which is the remote side of the Guadalupe River State Park. We're going to be hiking the Bauer Trail. We're going to head down to the river, and along the way we're going to pass by the old Bauer House. So come along with me. Let's look at some old history, some neat plants, and some amazing Texas landscape. Let me know what hikes y'all want to see next, and let's go. I hope everyone's having a wonderful week. We are off and we are exploring the Bauer Trail. The Bauer Trail is about 1.3 miles and it starts off in the parking lot. It's this nice paved pathway, and about halfway through the trail, we'll get to see the Bauer House, which is the old ranch house here on the property that has a lot of significant history to it. Then we'll continue down past the Bauer House and we'll get to see some old ranch land, and we'll get to go approach the river and see the river and hopefully catch some wildlife along the way. So before we get to the Bauer House, I wanted to share a little history with you all. So on the other side of the river is the main area, the main section of the Guadalupe River State Park. And that's where I've taken y'all to see the Scenic Overlook Trail. That's where we've gone to the Live Oak Trail and the Oak Savannah Loop. But here on this backside, there's about, I want to say it's 13 miles of trails back here. And it's an entirely different side of the park. And it offers a entirely different vibe to the park. And it's more remote, most definitely. And there's a lot more to see here. There's trails actually running to the left of me, which is the Bamberger Trail. And there's also the Curry Creek Overlook Trail that connect out that way. And then there's also trails to my right here that go through this cedar forest. And both offer different views and different landscape than what's offered on the other side of the park. Being on the remote side back here, there definitely is more opportunity to run into more wildlife, different types of wildlife. I think you'd be more likely to see a hog on this side because we're not getting as much human activity out here. The Bauer Unit is a quieter, less traveled section of the park, and it has a lot of deep roots in Texas history back here. The land once belonged to the Bauer family, and they were early German settlers who made their living ranching, farming, and surviving off the land in what was at the time still rugged Texas frontier. So when the Bauer family immigrated from Germany in the mid-1800s, they were part of a larger wave of German settlers who came to Central Texas during that period. The Bauers were likely drawn here by the promise of fertile land, religious freedom, and the hope of a better life, just like many families were that settled in nearby towns like New Braunfels and Bernie. The Bauers established a homestead and a ranch in what is now the Bauer Unit, and they were able to live a self-sufficient life out here. And their life was shaped by a lot of the challenges out here and the way the landscape treated them. Look at all this interesting moss on this tree. It's like stepping into another world back here. I can almost bet you if I picked up one of those pieces of tin, there would be a rattlesnake under one of them. This is the perfect spot for rattlesnakes, especially given that the river is just right down the road. So I wanted to take a moment and talk about the prickly pear cactus, which can be found all throughout the park. The prickly pear cactus is native to Texas, and it's been here for thousands of years. And there's even been fossil records that show this cactus growing in the region all the way back to prehistoric times. In 1995, it was officially named the state plant of Texas. And you'll find it all across the state, from dry rocky slopes in West Texas to the rolling hills of the hill country, and even growing wild along highways and fences. So why the spines? Those sharp little needles aren't just for show. They're actually modified leaves. Over time, the cactus evolved these spines to serve two different purposes. First, to protect it from animals trying to take a bite, and second, to reduce water loss in the harsh Texas heat. It's a desert survival tactic. Thin spines instead of broad leaves mean the plant loses less moisture through evaporation. So the name prickly pear comes from the colorful fruit that the cactus produces. And it's also known as tuna in Spanish, and the flat green pads, those are called nopals. Both the pads and the fruit are edible, and people have been eating prickly pear for generations, especially in Mexican and Tex-Mex cooking. You might have seen nopals served grilled, pickled, or in tacos. The fruit's sweet and full of antioxidants, and it's used in jams, jellies, and drinks. And right here you could see one of the prickly pears. So in times of drought, the cowboys would actually burn off the spines and feed the pads to cattle as emergency feed. And the white fuzz sometimes you see on the pads, that's from an insect called cochineal. When crushed, it releases a deep red dye once used in Native American art. And also another fun fact is that same cochineal was used in the British Redcoats uniforms. So it looks like right now they've got the house covered up and protected, and I can almost bet that's because of the flooding that we've had here in the Texas Hill Country, and trying to preserve this old homestead. And I'm sure it's easily susceptible to damage, especially given its state. And you can see that it's in pretty rough shape as it is. So like most hill country families at the time, the Bauers would have grown a mix of crops to support their family and livestock. They planted corn, wheat, and barley, staple grains used for food and animal feed, and they likely had small garden plots for vegetables like beans, squash, okra, and cabbage. Native grasses like little bluestem and side oaks grama were important for grazing livestock and preventing erosion. They may have also tended to peach or fig trees, which were common in German homesteads. Everything that grew had a purpose, either for feeding the family, preserving, trading, or sustaining their livestock. And livestock was vital. Cattle in particular were a symbol of wealth and survival in Texas ranching. The Bauers also hunted local wildlife to supplement their diet. That included white-tailed deer, wild turkey, rabbits, wild hogs, which the wild hogs were already becoming a nuisance in the late 1800s. Something that's out here today that they would not have hunted would have been axis deer, because they were introduced in the 1900s. Another vital food source for them was probably the fish in the Guadalupe River, and I would imagine they did a lot of fishing. Catfish, bass, sunfish, they had definitely opportunity to catch some fish out here. I can hear the water, so we must be getting close. So by the time the Bauers settled the land out here, many of the native tribes had already been displaced, but encounters weren't unheard of. The hill country was once home to the Tonkawa, Apache, and later Comanche people. While most violent conflict had begun to fade by the late 1800s, settlers still passed down stories of caution and respect for the native tribes who once called this land home. In earlier decades, there were real dangers, which were raids, territorial disputes, and tense relationships. But over time, the threat declined as the frontier pushed west. So around 100 million years ago, during the Cretaceous period, most of Texas was covered by a massive shallow sea called the Western Interior Seaway. This was a warm tropical ocean that stretched all the way from the Gulf of Mexico up into Canada. And if you had been here back then, you would have been swimming with ancient sharks, marine reptiles, ammonites, and coral reefs, right where the hill country sits today. You can still find fossils from that ancient sea embedded in the limestone around the Guadalupe River. Things like ammonites, spiral-shaped marine creatures, clams, sea urchins, and coral. And that creamy white rock you see along the trails and riverbanks, that's limestone, formed from millions of years of compacted sea life and sediment settling on the seafloor. Tens of millions of years of erosion from rainfall and groundwater began to cut through the limestone. That's how we got the canyons, the bluffs, and the riverbeds we see today. The Guadalupe River, along the countless springs and creeks, carved its path deep into this old seabed. Rainwater mixed with carbon dioxide created a weak acid that slowly dissolved limestone. And that's how you ended up with cool features like sinkholes, caves, and natural springs. Check it out. This is a persimmon off of this persimmon tree. And you can see another one right there. And the wildlife love to eat those up. All right, y'all, that's a wrap on this video. I hope you've enjoyed hiking with me today. Let me know where we should hike next, and I hope y'all continue to enjoy these adventures alongside me. I hope y'all have a great week, and I'll see y'all soon. Take care.